Welcome back to Shoe Leather Faith. My name is Robert McMillan, and we're continuing a two-part series on guiding your teen towards sexual clarity. Now, when there's so many different voices telling them about gender and sexuality, and they're supposedly giving them so many options, we need to have a clear understanding of what gender is and what sexuality is. In the previous video, I shared that gender is exclusively a grammatical term, and it's been trashed by people with an agenda. And there's only three genders. There's masculine, feminine, neuter. That's it. Has nothing to do with sex. If you're talking about sex, there are two. People who have two X chromosomes are females. People with an X and a Y chromosome, they are male. That's it. Regardless what social engineers and people with a wicked agenda have to say, that's it. We're going to look today at the two inputs in raising our teens to sexual clarity. Two people have a job. One is God and the other is the parents. Okay, three people. So, there's nature, that's what God provides. And there's nurture, that's what the parents are supposed to provide. So let's look at nature. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28, it says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them," that's plural, "have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So whoever these people called man are, they're to have dominion over the entire earth. God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. Okay? There's a male and there's a female. Adam and Eve, as we know now, and their job was to have dominion over the entire earth. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." That's it. There are two sexual differentiations. One is male, one is female. That's how God created it in the beginning. We've kind of cluttered it up with all kinds of silly ideas, to the point where our teenagers don't know what's true and what's not. From this passage, there's a few things we can learn. First, we are a unique creation. Nothing else was created like us. Brother whale and sister armadillo, they weren't created the way we were created, because we were created in the image of God. They weren't. Even the struggles of adolescence, as we change so remarkably as a result of the design of God, we are the only ones who are like us. We were created to rule over our creation. As one theologian wrote, we are dominion havers. Clumsy English, but he got the point across. We're to have dominion over everything. It's our job to look after it, to care for it, to use it, and to use it properly. We ought to be the best ecologists around. If we were created that way, our children must never get the idea that they were a mistake or irrelevant to God's amazing plan. And that stops it dead. The reason there's so many permutations on the theme today is because men have abandoned God. And they've abandoned his book, the Bible. This book, full of truth, but it's no longer considered relevant. We were told to be fruitful and multiply. By the way, this cannot be accomplished through same-sex relationships. So we've got the nature, and that's what God brought to the equation. He said, this is the way you're going to be. I'll create you in my image. Some of you will be men, some of you will be women. And we thought we had a better idea. Now we get into the nurture, and that confirms our sexual choices. In Proverbs 22:6, it says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old he will not depart from it." Parental interaction is key to imprinting sexual relationships. Now, imprinting occurs in the first 7 years of life. And I didn't make that up. Psychologists came up with that one. But you can see it in your life. When you see a little boy sitting beside his daddy while his dad puts his shoes on, what do you see the little boy starting to do? He's starting to learn how to put on his shoes. He does it just like daddy does. He wants to be just like daddy. That's the imprinting. And it goes on for the first, about 7 years of life, assuming that the dad's engaged with his child. The child learns the characteristics of his sex in relationship to others. Fathers roughhouse with their sons, but rarely with their daughters. Modeling is from the ages of 7 through 14, and this is where we practice what we've been imprinted with. And this is the point, by the way, where David and others failed their children. In 1 Kings 1, 5 through 6, Adonijah, the son of David, rebelled against his father and decided he was going to be king. And in verse 6 it says, "And his father had not rebuked him at any time by saying, 'Why have you done so?'" We need to make sure that we are helping our children with their practice, with modeling their manliness or their femininity. Eli's sons also failed morally. God rebuked Eli because he did not teach his sons right from wrong. You can read about that in 1 Samuel 2, verses 12 through 17. And then from the ages of 15 to 19, you've got the socialization. This is where they're out in the world, and what they have learned, what they have had imprinted, what they have modeled as they've watched their parents, this is what they're learning as they socialize. At this point, the child is acting out what he or she has learned. Dads must be men, not just adult males. And by the way, to be a man doesn't mean that you're walking around with a funny ball cap and a t-shirt and swilling beer and all the rest of it and yelling at baseball players. It means that all of the godly mannerisms that God originally built into us, a man is exercising. If he can't do that, he's merely an adult male. Women are to raise their daughters not just to be adult females, but to be women. Women, real women, with all the godly characteristics that you would read in Proverbs 31. Dads must be men, mothers must be feminine. The key is the interaction of the parents with each other during those times of imprinting and modeling. The boys learn how men treat and value women by the way their father treats their mother. The girls learn how women respond to men by watching their mothers respond to their father. The boys learn what to value in a wife by observing their mother. The girls learn what to value in a husband by watching the father. It's all tied together. And it takes the husband and the wife, the mother and the father, to accomplish that. I know we've just brushed the surface of this, and I will get back to this at a later date. There's other things that I've got to teach on to stay on schedule. But I hope that you learn something about guiding our children, our teens, our adolescents towards sexual clarity. Because in our culture today, there's anything but sexual clarity. And the only way you can get real sexual clarity is to know this book, apply it in your life, and help your children to incorporate it into their lives. Until next time, this is Robert McMillan signing off. If you've got a comment or some question you've got about your child's sexuality, put it down in the comment section below. If it's a question, just ask the question. I will respond to it. If you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, I'd appreciate it very much. In the meantime, just keep praying for those children of yours.